free, do what I want, any old time. I said I'm free, do what I want, any old time.
For the purpose of this video, this series of videos, I'm going to work on one very important basic premise, and that is that physical reality is all there is to reality. If you believe otherwise, you may switch off now, because this video is not for you. If you're still here, welcome. I'm going to talk about physical reality and the observed fact that matter appears to behave according to what we call laws of physics. And also that people have determined scientifically that those laws of physics do appear to be deterministic in nature. And because they're deterministic in nature, they, given matter, should describe exactly what that matter is going to do, how it's going to behave. Even if you look at something like quantum mechanics, which does incorporate an element of randomness, if you look at, for example, Schrödinger's equations, those equations are nonetheless completely deterministic. And of course then, if we look at reality, the reality of humanity in a philosophical sense, and based on that premise that I set out at the start, it would be more than likely that you might arrive at the conclusion that given this materialistic universe and nothing immaterial, supernatural outside that universe, and given these deterministic laws of physics, that therefore, given the original state of the universe, the way the universe is going to proceed over time, how it's going to evolve over time, and what happens in that universe over time, is governed by purely deterministic laws and is therefore essentially preordained. And that then has got serious ramifications to us as human beings and our precious notion of free will. Because if that is what the universe is like, and that is what the laws of physics are like, and that is the conclusion we can draw from them, we have to admit that therefore we don't actually have free will, do we? Well, you'd be wrong. Because there's an awful lot more to determinism than meets the eye. The mistake that a lot of people make by jumping from those premises to that conclusion is that they do not take into account the complexity of the universe and the extent to which that complexity influences the determinism in that universe. And of course an awful lot of people will at this point object and say that all that complexity only makes the predictability harder to achieve. It would require just more computing power. But if you had that computing power at your disposal, you would be able to calculate what the whole universe was going to do. And that is simply not right. That is simply incorrect. And that's what I'm going to be exploring in this series of videos. Now before I start, because this series of videos is about one particular thing, it's about free will. And before I'm going to start, in this first part of the series, this first episode, I'm going to explore what it would take to validly call something free will. How can I say validly that I would have free will? What would it take? And this is what I think are the two major ingredients that are required before I could validly claim to have free will. The first thing is that my behavior, my decisions, the product of my will would have to be, in principle, not just in practice, but in principle, unpredictable. So that means that no matter how big a computer you chuck at me, you could never fully calculate with absolute certainty what I was going to decide next. That's the first ingredient. The second ingredient that would be required for me to be able to claim validly that I had free will is that I, the possessor of this free will, and the reason why I put that in quotes will become apparent in future videos, I, the possessor of this free will, would still have to be in charge. In other words, it couldn't be so free that I would be no better than a speck of dust floating around on capricious winds, with absolutely no input on what I'm doing and where I'm going. If that were in place, it would be free, alright, but it would not be free will. My will would not come into it in that case. So that's the balancing act that needs to be struck in order for me to be able to claim that I've got free will. Maybe take this introduction and just think about it for a couple of days, because I'm not going to rush with this. Just think about this. But please don't start rushing into assumptions on where I'm going to go with this and start commenting on that basis to this video. I would prefer it if you were to wait until I finish this series. I've taken it all on board and then comment on what I've said. Of course, any other comments would be welcome. Thank you very much, and let's see where this is going to take us.